I'm joined for this conversation by the Port of Long Beach CEO, Noel Hacegaba. Noel, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you, Dave.
Likewise.
Hello, everybody.
All right, so it's a new year for all of us, but it's also a new job for you. You've been at the Port of Long Beach for years, but you've just stepped up as CEO. You were telling me backstage you've got an ambitious agenda. What's the top line? What's the first thing that you want to tackle as CEO?
So this is day 21, and I hit the ground running right out of the gates. Last Thursday, I cast a brand new vision for our port, and that is to double our container throughput by 2050. Which means, Dave, we've got 24 years to figure out how we're going to handle 100% more of cargo safely, efficiently, sustainably, and reliably.
And you hit a record last year for the amount of cargo moving through your port, which was surprising to me. You're primarily handling cargo coming in from Asia. I've seen a couple headlines about trade between the U.S. and one big country in Asia in particular. Why? Why did cargo continue to climb last year, and why do you have that level of optimism that 24 years from now you're going to need to be handling double the amount of cargo coming in?
Well, it was truly remarkable. When you look back at the beginning of last year, there was a lot of doom and gloom, and a lot of folks were suggesting, we've seen this movie before, referring to the 2018-2019 U.S.-China trade disruptions. But what we saw last year was not a rerun. In fact, it wasn't even a sequel. Liberation Day alone was just sweeping and unprecedented. Yet, in spite of all of that, we ended in record territory, 9.9 million TEUs, 10 million to round up. And what was remarkable about that is every time a new tariff was announced, all the shippers, in an effort to try to get ahead of those new tariffs, were advancing their shipments. So all that front loading actually led to a record run. But here's the best part. Despite all the shipments that arrived early, if you look at the inventory to sales ratio, it trended down, which means, Dave, that in 2026, a lot of that inventory is going to have to be replenished. So we're anticipating another busy year, maybe not a record year again, but another busy year at the Port of Long Beach.
You mentioned the tariff announcements that have come through. When President Trump puts something up on Truth Social that says we're going to raise tariffs by 10% if X doesn't happen by Y date, how does that change your day? What's your next move that you have to do to make sure that the port is ready to respond to what we're hearing from the White House?
In my job, you have to be comfortable doing uncomfortable things or in an uncomfortable environment. And the only certainty really is uncertainty. And so for us as a port, a major gateway for the U.S. economy that generates almost 3 million jobs across the country and moves $300 billion worth of goods each year, our job is to remain resilient, to remain calm, be the adult in the room, and encourage all of our shippers and partners not to overreact, not to panic. We've got you. We're here for you. And whatever changes in trade policy, the one thing that we're assuring our customers is from the Port of Long Beach, you can expect reliability, you can expect predictability, no matter what happens around us.
But to that point, do you feel like here in Davos or when you're doing your day job talking to customers, do you have to make the case for trade with the United States that people should continue to put their faith in shipping their goods through your port and to the United States in general rather than looking for other markets given all the uncertainty?
It's a good question, right? As a port, we don't take positions on policy changes or initiatives. Our job is to make sure that the flow of cargo into and out of the United States is efficient, it's seamless. And so regardless of what happens, as we learned last year, notwithstanding this record run of announcements, new tariffs, shifting policies, we were able to handle record volumes, Dave, without disruption, without backlogs, without congestion or delays. And that's our commitment to our customers. No matter what happens, if you have to advance your shipments, if you have to source your product from other countries like we've seen in recent years, the Port of Long Beach is here for you. We're going to move your cargo, and we're going to continue building out our capacity because we are bullish on the future.
And obviously that record cargo is one data point, but we're 1 year into Trump 2.0 right now, and a lot of our colleagues in the media are writing kind of retrospectives of what happened in year one. From where you're sitting, does the fact that you had record cargo I know some of that was front running, but you said you're expecting very strong volumes next year. Does that suggest the tariffs were less disruptive than many of us expected when he announced them? Or are there different factors at play that mean that you in particular are continuing to process lots of volume when things change around the world?
I would say that tariffs and the way that they were announced certainly created a lot of disruption across the global supply chain. The shippers reacted to all the announcements by looking for alternative sourcing markets, by advancing their shipments. And it was their strategies to respond to all these new tariffs that led to this record buildup in cargo. But I wouldn't say it doesn't mean that they were not disruptive, because the one thing we all know is the uncertainty. These tariffs injected uncertainty into the supply chain. And when you have uncertainty in the supply chain, it slows investments by businesses, by port partners, logistics providers. But at the Port of Long Beach, again, because we're bullish on the future, we're not going to let short-term fluctuations and volatility get in the way of our plans. And this is why we're already planning today, Dave, to double our throughput by 2050. And that's what I call the 20 by 50 plan. And I'm very excited about it because what it does for us as an organization in our port community, I'm doing three things. We're clarifying our vision, we're simplifying our mission, and we're amplifying our impact. And it's got the entire port community pumped up because we've got an important mission to accomplish, and we're going to get it done.
First of all, I'm surprised to hear you say that. I would have guessed that the port community would be in a pretty, sort of all over the place right now. But if everybody's determined and looking forward to the future, that's good to hear. How have the sort of logistics of that? You said that lots of companies, lots of partners have been reacting to the tariffs in timings and what they're shipping. How has it changed for you in terms of volumes coming out of China versus production from other places versus maybe China shipping through third countries to get to the United States? Give me the picture from the Port of Long Beach on those dynamics.
So let me answer that question this way. In 2019, China alone, when you count all the imports and exports, accounted for about 70% of our total business at the Port of Long Beach. Today, that's down to 60%. So we've seen a 10 percentage point shift from China to countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia. And what that means for us, Dave, is when shippers move their sourcing from China to Southeast Asia, it actually extends the transit time from that origin to our port. And so that puts more pressure on us to shorten the time a container stays in our port. And that's why over the next 10 years, we're investing $3.2 billion in our infrastructure. That's the single largest investment of any port in America. $3.2 billion over the next 10 years. And you know what we're going to do with that? We're going to build out our rail capacity, and we're going to double our efforts to move containers from a ship to a train to hit all the key markets in the U.S., whether it's Kansas City, Memphis, Chicago, Dallas. Right now, on average, it takes 4 days to get a container from a ship to a train and out of the port. With these investments, principally our Pier B project, we're going to get that down to 24 hours. So they're going to save, our shippers are going to save 3 days just by the investments that we're making.
And how much of that is automation? Obviously, it's a big factor in your industry generally. I've seen some commentary that there are other peers that are further along on their journey to automating processes maybe than you all are. When you lay out that plan for what the next 24 years look like, how much of that is automation?
This project that I mentioned, the Pier Beyond Dock Rail Support Facility, involves no automation. What it does is it creates more jobs for our dock workers, for our vital workforce that actually move the containers from the ship to the truck to the train. But generally, right, this vision that I cast last week, 20 million by 50, it's a vision that puts all of us in a position to figure out how we're going to double our throughput and how we're going to employ visionary innovation. I call it visionary innovation because we have to be visionary, not just in the technology we use, but how we use it. I want to make sure that everyone benefits from our investments, from this vision, and that includes our workforce. So we've got to find a way to make sure that our investments and our leveraging of technology and innovation doesn't leave anyone behind, especially our workforce.
And yeah, you're setting me up for this one. This is probably the only discussion at Davos that's made it 10 minutes without saying the letters AI. So I'm going to change that.
I was surprised.
Right now. AI. What are the? Obviously, it's in supply chain. It's huge. I know that's an area where it's been adopted pretty heavily. What does it look like for you? The integration of AI into your work.
You know, that's probably the most common question I get, right? How is AI reshaping or affecting your port? How will it affect our port in the future? And the simple answer is we don't know yet. We don't know the full extent of how AI is going to reshape what we do, how we do it. But what I do know is this: technology in and of itself is not a solution. It's a tool. Technology becomes a solution when you properly integrate into an operation. We operate in a system of systems, right? We control the perimeter and of our port, but we interact with ships, with trains, with trucks. And so for us, the added challenge when you consider something like AI is, how are you going to harness and leverage the full extent of AI when our partners are using it in different ways? So we got to figure out and be visionary in our innovation of how we're going to adopt technology in a way that doesn't leave anyone behind. And so that is going to be one of our key assignments, is figure out how do we properly integrate AI in a way that makes us more efficient, more reliable, more sustainable, but without disrupting our workforce.
So then, are you still in wait and see mode a little bit, or is it already changing your day to day quite a bit?
You know, one of the reasons I'm here in Davos is to directly engage with world leaders across government, business, industry. I'm meeting with the top CEOs of the world's top supply chain, transportation companies. I'm meeting with the top CEOs in Europe, and I'm in listening mode. I'm in learning mode because no one knows everything. And what we need as we look to implement our ambitious plan, we're going to have to learn by talking to others, understanding how they're looking at AI, for example, how they're looking at applying it and so forth. But to me, Davos is the right forum to have those discussions, because at the end of the day, every country, every region benefits from a supply chain that's reliable, efficient, and sustainable.
It might be news to some people here at Davos that nobody knows everything, but I'm glad that that's your perspective. So looking ahead to 2026, you already said that you're expecting maybe not a record, but high volumes. What are the what's sort of top of your list in terms of what you're watching out for to see what 2026 is going to look like for you?
To me, the most important thing is certainty and reliability. And I've been announcing to our customers and our port partners from day one, this is day 21 for me, is that the Port of Long Beach will be here for you. We will always be open. We will always have capacity. We'll handle your cargo with care. And so for me in 2026, the lookout is no matter what disruptions may come, whether it's an influx of cargo, whether it's the opposite, which we haven't seen, is to be able to handle all that cargo reliably, efficiently, and sustainably. And I think we have a track record. People know that in Long Beach, we lead with vision and we inspire with action. And that's why people consider us their port of choice. That's why they keep bringing their cargo to us, because they know that we'll take care of it.
We're running out of time, so I'll ask one last question. You said this is your first Davos and you're meeting everybody. You have a packed schedule. What would make this a successful trip for you, and what have you already picked up so far here? It's been we were discussing backstage that there's a lot of energy here this week, but it's pulling in a lot of different directions.
Yeah, you know, to me, it's being part of the conversation, right? Davos is a place where world leaders converge to talk about the key issues facing the globe and setting a forward-looking agenda. The Port of Long Beach is a major, major gateway, not just for the U.S., but globally, and we're here at the table. We're here to help shape that future, because this 20 by 50 plan and vision that we have, it's going to be important to have international cooperation like never before.
All right, well, thank you so much for the conversation. Really enjoyed it. That's all the time we have.